Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're plunging into a really bizarre chapter from scientific history. It's the strange case of Beringer's Lying Stones in 18th century Germany.
Oh, yeah, it's a fascinating one. It really sits at that crossroads of science, ambition, and, well, outright deception, even in academia.
Absolutely. And the main character here is Johann Barthol Beringer. He was, a respected professor at the University of Würzburg, a pillar of the community, really.
Right, someone you'd expect to be quite grounded in the knowledge of the time.
Exactly. So imagine him suddenly faced with something just completely extraordinary. What do you think his first reaction would have been?
Well, knowing his background, he'd probably try to fit it into what he already knew, wouldn't he? Like, are these geological formations, some kind of known fossil, that sort of thing?
And this extraordinary thing was hundreds of stones. Not just rocks, but stones carved with these incredibly detailed images.
Yeah, like insects, spiders, birds, lizards, a whole zoo carved in stone.
Some looking fairly normal, others, well, let's just say they were pretty imaginative. Nature definitely didn't make those.
Uh-huh. And then there were the Hebrew inscriptions on some of them, just adds another layer of weirdness.
Totally. So our mission today is to unpack let's call it the official story, but also dig into those more persistent, maybe more intriguing alternative theories that still hang around this, 300-year-old puzzle?
Right. We'll be looking at the historical accounts, Beringer's own book, the Lithographiae Würzburgensis, from 1726, and how people have tried to make sense of it all since then.
Okay, so let's start with that official story. How did these stones even get discovered?
The standard account is that Beringer's own students brought them to him first. They said they'd found them nearby on Mount Eibelstadt.
Students finding things for their professor. That sounds plausible for the time.
Oh, definitely. Professors relied on students for fieldwork quite a bit back then, so that part isn't unusual in itself.
Okay, so you're Beringer. Your students bring you these stones. They look like fossils, amazing detail, but some are just odd. He must have been skeptical at first, surely.
You'd think so, right? I mean, plants with stars on them, insects with moons. It's pretty out there. His initial reaction was almost certainly skepticism.
So what changed his mind? What made him think, yes, these are real?
Well, I think it was partly the sheer number of them. It wasn't just one or two oddities. And the detail, the apparent consistency across many of them.
Like it looked too elaborate not to be real in a strange way.
Kind of. Maybe the artistry, the effort involved seemed too much for a simple fake. He perhaps started thinking they were evidence of God's playful artistry or, creatures from a very different ancient time.
And this growing belief led him to publish his book, the Lithographiae Würzburgensis, a big step. He was basically putting his reputation on the line, presenting these finds to the world.
Exactly. He must have thought this was huge, a major discovery. He probably expected some debate, sure, but ultimately, fame and recognition for uncovering something profound about natural history.
His book, filled with detailed drawings, is his big moment.
It just should have been.
But it wasn't, was it? This is where the story takes a sharp turn.
A very sharp turn. It all came crashing down. It turned out they were fakes.
Fakes, meticulously carved and planted for him to find.
That's the story, planted right there on Mount Eibelstadt, where his students found them.
And the people behind it, not some random pranksters, but his own colleagues.
Yeah. Two colleagues, Johann Georg von Eckhart and Christoph Niklaus von Gunderud. Apparently they just wanted to discredit him, humiliate him publicly.
Wow, that's brutal. Academic rivalry turned nasty.
It seems so. Competition could be fierce, and maybe they felt Beringer was getting too big for his boots, or they fundamentally disagreed with his ideas. This was a way to tear him down.
You can only imagine the humiliation. Finding out your great discovery is just a cruel joke.
Devastating. Absolutely. He tried desperately to buy back all the copies of his book, to erase the evidence of his mistake, but the damage was done.
So that's the official version. A nasty academic prank. But the story doesn't quite end there, does it? The sheer weirdness of the stones keeps people wondering.
Exactly. That's why we get these alternative theories. The official story, while plausible in terms of motive, feels almost too simple for objects this bizarre. It leaves room for doubt, for speculation.
That's right. Let's get into those. One major one is that Beringer wasn't a victim at all, that he was somehow in on it.
The idea that maybe he knew they were fake or even committed them himself.
Why would he do that? Personal gain, fame. Or maybe trying to prove some pet theory he had.
Well, people who lean towards this theory sometimes point to how quickly he accepted them and published. Like, was he too ready to believe? Did he ignore red flags? The sheer number found so fast, it makes some people suspicious.
Okay, then there's the hidden knowledge angle. This one's more out there.
This is the idea that the stones weren't a prank, but actually depicted real things. Lost species, maybe? Or evidence of some pre-human civilization.
And the hoax story was just a cover-up to hide this incredible truth.
That's the theory. It taps into that fascination with lost worlds, you know? Ancient secrets. The strange images on the stones, like those celestial symbols mixed with animals, really fuel that kind of thinking. It hints at a reality we don't understand.
It definitely has a certain appeal. Then there's the idea of a deeper agenda, religious or philosophical.
Right. Could the whole thing, hoax or not, have been part of a bigger game, maybe designed to undermine religious beliefs about creation? Or, conversely, to mock the new scientific thinking that was emerging in the Enlightenment?
The 18th century was a real clash of ideas, wasn't it? Science versus traditional beliefs.
Absolutely. So throwing these seemingly impossible objects into the mix could have been a way to stir the pot, to challenge people's assumptions about the world, whether from a religious or scientific standpoint. It could cut both ways.
And, okay, let's touch on the really fringe idea. Extraterrestrial origins.
Ah, yes. The theory that humans didn't carve these at all. That they're alien artifacts or something similarly exotic.
It's amazing how quickly we jump to explanations like that when something doesn't fit, isn't it?
It really is. I think it shows how much we want to find meaning to explain the unexplained. When something is truly weird, our usual explanations feel inadequate. So we reach for something bigger, even if it's much less likely.
Okay, so let's talk about the evidence people use to support these alternative theories. And we should stress, this is often pretty thin, interpretation-heavy stuff.
Definitely. A lot hinges on the stones themselves. One thing often mentioned is the artistic quality.
Like they're too detailed, too skillfully done to be just a quick prank.
That's the argument some people make. They suggest a level of craftsmanship beyond what simple pranksters might possess.
And the Hebrew inscriptions, they get read into a lot, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. People see hidden mystical meanings, coded messages, links to ancient knowledge, you name it. The fact it was Hebrew, a language associated with scholarship and religion, adds to that mystique.
Then there's Beringer's own actions.
Well.
People scrutinize his behavior.
Yeah, suggesting he was too quick to believe, maybe ignored things that didn't fit. His enthusiasm in his writings is sometimes painted as suspicious, like he had a personal stake beyond just scientific curiosity.
And what about the supposed hoaxers, Eckhart and Gunderath? Do the alternative theories question their motives too?
Sometimes, yes. The idea might be floated that maybe they weren't acting alone, or that their stated motive, simple rivalry, doesn't quite cover it. Perhaps they were pawns in a larger scheme, serving some other group's agenda.
Professional jealousy, religious plots. It gets complicated.
It can, in the theories at least.
And finally, just the fact that we're still talking about these stones, that they hold this fascination. Sometimes that's presented as proof that there must be more to the story.
Right, the endurance of the mystery itself becomes a kind of evidence in some people's eyes.
But, okay, let's pull back and apply some historical reality checking here. What strongly supports the original hoax story?
Well, the strongest evidence is in contemporary accounts. We have records, even statements reportedly from the hoaxers that talk about the plot, plus the stones showing up exactly where Beringer was likely to look. It's just too convenient, isn't it? Points heavily towards planting.
And the argument about the carving skill, was that really beyond 18th century capabilities?
Not really, no. The 18th century had incredibly skilled craftspeople, engravers, people who worked with stone, making detailed carvings like that. It would take time and skill, sure, but it was definitely achievable for artisans back then, especially if they were motivated.
So it wasn't some lost art.
Not at all, just good craftsmanship.
And the motives of Eckhart and Gunderath. Simple academic rivalry might seem petty, but it happens, right?
Oh, absolutely. Personal feuds, professional jealousy. These were, and are, unfortunately common in academia and other fields. Wanting to humiliate a rival you dislike or disagree with. It's a very human, if unpleasant, motivation. We know there was tension between them and Beringer.
So we don't necessarily need a grand conspiracy to explain why they do it.
Probably not. Their actions, while extreme, fit a known pattern of human behavior in competitive environments.
And crucially, for all these alternative theories, the cover-ups, the aliens, Beringer's complicity, where's the actual proof?
That's the key issue. There really isn't any credible, concrete evidence. No hidden diaries, no deathbed confessions confirming a cover-up, no independent proof of lost civilizations or alien involvement. It's all speculation built on the strangeness of the stones, not on verifiable facts.
So the exciting theories lack grounding.
Pretty much. While they make for a better story, maybe the historical evidence we do have points overwhelmingly towards the hoax explanation.
Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive on Beringer's Lying Stones, it really seems the most likely answer is the simplest, if maybe the least romantic one. A very elaborate, very personal academic prank.
It really does seem that way, and it's a powerful cautionary tale, isn't it?
About what? Deception. Wishful thinking.
All of that. How easily we can be fooled, even experts. The importance of critical thinking, of questioning things, especially when they seem too good or too strange to be true.
Makes you wonder how many other accepted historical facts might have simpler, maybe less flattering explanations behind them.
It certainly highlights that desire we have for the extraordinary. Sometimes we want the complex conspiracy more than the mundane truth. But good analysis means sticking to the evidence.
Right. And while those conspiracy theories are fun to think about, the solid history points to a trick. A really well-executed, mean-spirited trick.
Yet the stones themselves remain fascinating objects. A testament to creativity, maybe. Even if it was creativity used for deception in this case.
So, a final thought for you listening. Think about how fragile knowledge can seem sometimes, how easily it can potentially be undermined, and why it's so important to really scrutinize extraordinary claims, however cool they might sound. What other areas of knowledge do you think are maybe vulnerable to these kinds of elaborate hoaxes or persistent alternative stories? Something to chew on.